everyone, it's Chelsea from the Zula B. Wiley Public Library, and welcome to our Among Us DIY. So today we are going to be making this really cute keychain of a little Among Us character. Mine is purple, and I think it turned out really good. It's not perfect, but it was really fun to make. I haven't worked with polymer clay since maybe sophomore or junior year of high school. I used to be really into it, so this is my first time doing it again, and I think it turned out really well. So before we get into the tutorial, I just wanted to say if you haven't picked up an Among Us space pack, there's still time to do that. It's really awesome because not only does it have all of the supplies for this tutorial, it also has some other little goodies in it, including a Among Us button that we made, some Smarties candy, and a Among Us sticker too. So, and then it also has the information about the community gameplay that we are going to be doing. So we're gonna go ahead and get into the tutorial. All right, so I'm gonna show y'all the materials that you're gonna need that came in your pack. You're gonna get a big piece of clay, which we'll use for the body, a white piece of clay, and blue piece of clay. You'll also be getting a little keychain. This isn't the exact one that's gonna come in your space pack. I ran out of those. So for this tutorial, I'm just gonna be using what I have, which is just this little keychain and more of, I don't really know what you call these, but it has a little loop on the end, and yours, it's essentially the same thing, but it's already attached, and the end of it is more of a screw, which will actually be a lot better than what I have right here. The ridges of the screw will help to hold in the clay a little bit better. Also in your pack is gonna come a little pot of glaze. It'll be Sculpey glaze, and you'll either see a G or an S on your little pot of glaze that came in your pack, and that means it'll be a gloss or a satin. Both have a little bit of a sheen to it. The gloss has more of a high shine to it than the satin, but both of them we can use for after. And I'm trying to think, I think that was all. So I'm gonna be using some different tools, but you can use different household items, like if you have a little paintbrush, if you have toothpicks, maybe a butter knife. You want to be very careful with that, of course, but really anything that you can use to shape. For the most part, we'll be using our hands to shape. I have this little piece of like plastic, because this is what I'm going to be making our piece on. And you're gonna wanna make sure that you've washed your hands, you've washed the surface that you're working on, because we don't want to get a lot of flyaway dust particles onto our clay. That can sometimes be very annoying. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. You're going to take your big piece of clay. Might be a little bit hard to get out of here. So now I'm just going to kind of play with it. You're gonna get a bigger piece of clay than what I have in this little packet. And what we're gonna do first is we're gonna start heating it up in our hand, because when you get it out of its package, it's still gonna be pretty hard. So I'm just gonna start working it with my hands so that it's a lot more workable. Now we are going to make the body of our person first. So what I'm gonna do, they're kind of like rectangular in shape, our little Among Us character. So I'm just gonna start forming a little rectangle. Just with my fingers, you can kind of play around with it. You don't have to make this super big if you don't want to. You can make your figurine as big or small as you want. And now I'm just gonna kind of, they have more of a rounded head too. So not completely rectangular. So I'm just gonna kind of round its head just with my finger. And you'll have to bear with me. I haven't worked with clay in quite a while. I did a test piece before I filmed this right now, so that one turned out pretty well. It's currently cooling. Oh, which reminds me, you're gonna go ahead and preheat your oven to 260 degrees Fahrenheit. So that way, while we're working with this, it's already heating up. So I've kind of gotten it to be a little bit more rounded out up at the top. And I think I am okay with this shape. And something else to think about too is your fingerprints. They will get on your clay. So if that's something that bothers you, like it does me, you can just smooth it out by running your fingers over it. It kind of helps to get rid of your fingerprints. Now I'm gonna take one of my tools and I'm gonna start working on the legs. Hopefully you can see this. I'm going to kind of just cut maybe a little less than halfway down the little figurine. So I'm just gonna make a little slit like that. I think I actually made his legs a little bit too long. And I'm just gonna do that. So as you can see, there's like a little slight, I did the first figurine a little bit differently, but I think I like this way a little bit better. Just kind of playing with the different kinds of legs. I think I'm not actually happy with this one. I think I'm just gonna do it how I did the last one. So I'm just gonna, this is the great part about clay making, is if you're not happy with something, you can just start from the beginning. You just, especially when you don't have any other colors involved yet. So easy to, I think I'm gonna roll it into a little cylinder, start working it back into that shape that I initially had it in. Okay, so I'm back at that shape. I'd say this is pretty even and pretty much how I would like it. I'm gonna smooth it out again, try and get rid of some of those fingerprints. And what I did last time, I'm gonna make that slit again, but I'm gonna make two this time and kind of carve out some of that middle piece. So now you kind of have more of a leg shape. And if you have a better way of doing the legs, you can do that as well. And I'm gonna kind of stand it up a little bit to try and even out the feet, so that way it can stand. And you know, we are making a keychain, but if you really wanted to, you could just make it just a figurine and not even put it on a keychain if you don't want. All right, so now that I kind of have my little body, I'm going to go ahead and work with the blue and the white clay. Go ahead, take out the blue, and just do the same thing that we did with the base color and kind of start making it more workable, just using our fingers. Also, leave a comment down below what your favorite color character is, and how maybe you decorate yours for your game. I'm gonna go ahead and take one of my spools that has a little ball on the end of it, and we're gonna make, I'm just going to start making the shape where the blue clay will go. And we're digging out a little bit of that clay, so not only can you kind of see where we're gonna place that blue, making a little indentation in the clay and then putting the other clay inside of it will help it stay more so that it doesn't fall out. So you can kind of play with the shape a little bit. It's a little bit more rectangular, I think. And I'm just going to take that piece of clay. You can use as much or as little as you want, and I'm going to start pressing it down in there. And we're just trying to smooth it out a little bit. This one has a little bit more of a circular piece of blue than I had intended, but that's okay. And again, if you're not happy with it, you can always maybe start over a little bit on that. I think I'm gonna blend down. Now I will say, if you do get into more, if you get into more clay work, these tools can be very, very helpful. They're not super necessary, but it can make the job a lot easier. Now we are going to put in that shade of white, and I'm just going to do the same exact thing that we did earlier for the blue and kind of just make the little spot where I want the white to go. I think I used too much white. Okay. And put a little bit more white in there and then try and blend it out. And again, I'm just gonna smooth out everything to try and get my fingerprints out of it. And you'll definitely want to do more of a sweeping motion than a patting motion. Oop. My blue smudged a little bit. That's okay. Does not have to be perfect. I definitely think my earlier piece might have come out a little bit better. But again, just play with it until you are happy. Let's smooth out the back a little bit. All right, so I'm just gonna set the body to the side. I think I am happy with that. And I'm going to take my leftover pink clay that I set aside for its little backpack thing. And I'm just gonna take a little bit. I don't wanna make the backpack that big, but you size it to your preference. And again, I'm just gonna work it with my fingers. Add just a little bit more. And again, their backpacks are a little bit, or part of their suit is a little bit more rectangular. I'm gonna add a little bit more clay. Okay, now that it is a little bit more workable, I'm gonna form it into the rectangular shape that I like. And I'm gonna go ahead and put that on its back. What you could do as well, actually, no. So I'm just gonna press it, still trying to keep its shape. And then what I'm gonna do in that little crevice, I'm gonna do my best to maybe try and push some of it down more into its body, so that way it has a little bit better of a time sticking, because this is another like piece that could easily fall off if you don't, you know, attach it right. So I'm just kind of going along its edges in that crevice and kind of pushing the clay into each other. Again, we are pretty much done with modeling the figurine. I'm just gonna go over it again, trying to smooth out some of the parts. Try and get as much of my fingerprints off of it as possible. And now our little figurine is done. Now all that's left to do is to bake it. Oh, but first, so on your little keychain, there's going to be an attachment on it. You're gonna take that off. It should look like this, but more of a screw. And you're going to, if you're doing a keychain, if you don't want it as a keychain and just a figurine, you can stop here and just bake it. But I'm going to go ahead and put my little, I don't know what this is called, but I'm just gonna put that down into its body very gently. And I think I'm gonna take it out. I have this hot glue gun and I'm going to put some, oop, dropped it. I'm gonna put some hot glue on it, and then I keep dropping it. And put that back down into that hole that we just made. So that way it helps it be, helps it stay in a little bit more. So now that we have our little person ready, it can go in the oven. Now the directions for this, like I said, you're gonna preheat it to 260 degrees Fahrenheit. And my first figurine that I did, that was about this size, I baked for 30 minutes. However, I did stop halfway through at about the 15-minute mark. I took it out carefully, and I kind of used one of my tools and like tapped it just a little bit just to see if it was done, and it wasn't done. So I put it in for another 15 minutes. The directions say, depending on the thickness is how long you're gonna bake it. So they said 10 minutes for every 1/4 of an inch. As you can see, this is pretty thick, but I would maybe put it in for 10 minutes at a time. Maybe every 10 minutes, take it out, check it. Don't use your finger because it will be hot, but maybe just take something and tap it lightly someplace, maybe at the bottom to not mess up your design, just to see if it's solid yet. So I'm gonna put this in the oven to bake, and then we are going to glaze the one that I just made. So I just wanted to add, before we glaze, I baked the clay on a piece of tin foil that I put on a baking sheet. Just wanted to throw that out there. So anyways, this is the one that I let completely cool before I'm putting the glaze on it. So there's a couple of different ways you can glaze it. If you'd like, you can glaze the whole thing. I think there should be enough glaze in your little glaze pots to do that if you would like. For this one, I think I'm just going to glaze the blue and the white part of the clay. And I'm gonna use the gloss glaze, so this is gonna be a little bit more of a high shine. And I'm just gonna take it on a, if it'll go. I think I'm gonna have to open it. I'm gonna take it on, just a piece of my paintbrush, or a whole lot of my paintbrush. And I'm just going to gloss the blue and the white portion. If you got a satin gloss, which it'll have an S or a G for satin or gloss, it'll still have a slight sheen to it. It probably won't be as glossy as how this one will turn out, but it'll still give it a little bit of a shine. So I have the glaze on it. I'm going to keep the rest of it matte because I just like how that looks. And then I'm going to let it completely dry. Now that the glaze has dried, I went ahead and attached the keychain to it. And you guys, I'm so happy with how it turned out. It looks so cute, and I like that I'm glad I made the decision just to glaze the blue and the white. I think it adds just a little bit more to it. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial, and again, make sure that you go and pick up a space pack, and also be on the lookout because on the 24th of this month at 5 p.m. we are going to be having a community game of Among Us. So we're gonna put out the code for the room on our social media so that way you can join in, and we will have a good old time and play Among Us. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure that you comment down below pictures of your creation, and yeah, I hope y'all have a good rest of your night. Bye.